were comic books. And that's so much fun in the comic book world when you get a crossover.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that earlier.
Nice. So it's been a couple of weeks or about 10 days since I read your email. And do you want to take us through what you want to talk about? I'm just following you, man. I'm game for whatever.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with a bit of an update. So I started working with this poetry coach.
Nice.
I'll be doing that for about 4 more weeks, which is good.
Congratulations. That's a huge step since we last talked, because when we last talked you were feeling a little nervous about committing to your poetry, but you knew that it was part of your soul's calling, and now you're taking action. That's a huge success. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So we go through about 3 or 4 poems a week, and I'm almost finished a website as well where I plan on posting it. So that's kind of been what I've been working on lately.
And how are you finding the poetry coaching? Are you finding it helpful or?
Yeah, it's been quite helpful to get someone else looking at my work. It's been quite good, actually.
That's fantastic.
For other services, it's priced reasonably for the stuff that he does for you. And so I'm kind of building up a backlog of a few poems. So when I make the website, I'll have some stuff out there, and that will allow me to kind of keep writing and kind of get ahead of the curve and be able to keep up with new content. So
Awesome. I did read the poems you sent. I don't remember if I responded, but my favorite one was the second one. The first one you sent us, I don't remember that one, but I remember this
empty table.
Yeah, so my favorite was the second one. I forget what it was called. I wish I had it.
yeah.
But I really did like it, and I enjoyed reading it. So I thought you should know that, because I don't think I actually responded to the email because I got so busy.
And actually, I don't remember what the second one was. I remember the first one was Empty Table, and the last one was Nihilistic Cathedral, which that one was my favorite. But at the moment, I'm blanking on what the second one was.
Hold on, I'm pulling it up. Untitled.
Oh, that's helpful, Ryan. Thanks.
Oh, that's the title. Couldn't come up with anything.
The actual title is Untitled. Yeah. Actually, wait. I don't know. Maybe it was the first one, Nothing Left on the Table, because now that I look at that, I think that, I don't know. Anyways, Good work.
Yeah. We changed a few of the lines of those poems, so
okay.
Different now. But
so when they go up on the website, they're going to be slightly different?
Yeah, they're going to be a bit different, but I think they're better, so.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
And are you giving yourself any sort of deadline with the website? Are you just working on it until it's ready, or do you have like a goal in mind of a specific time to have it finished by?
The website itself is mostly done. Right now, I'm just kind of building up a little bit of content, so it will be a bit easier to keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
But should be ready sometime this month.
Fantastic.
And is it just going to be your own poetry, or are you going to have any part of the website where other people can share their poetry with you as well?
Right now, I don't have plans for that. It's more just put a few poems up and kind of see where it goes. I don't have really hard and fast plans about what I'm going to do with the website yet.
Wow. Wow. Well, man, I was thinking back to our first podcast. What was it, like almost 2 months ago at least? It had to have been 2 months ago. I mean, unless my brain is just totally crazy. And it was very meaningful because I think the only other person we talked to was Robbie, or otherwise known as Rob. And I just think you opened up the floodgates with the whole thing. And now we have people emailing us to have conversations regularly. I had conversations scheduled like every day this week besides yesterday because I was traveling. So you're a pioneer, man. You're pioneering something here, and we appreciate it.
I think the conversations you've been having so far have been quite good, and they're kind of in keeping with how Andrew ran the channel in terms of being open and sharing what he's going through. And so it's been a good kind of carryover.
Thank you. And Mercury, you've got something new behind your right shoulder.
Okay, yes. And thank you, Nolan. I finally picked up The Killing Joke just because we were going to talk today. So I had this on my list of things to pick up for a long fucking time. But who knows if I ever would have gotten around to it. But I ordered it last week to be ready for our talk. And yeah, this is my first time doing anything to prepare for a talk. So even with Paul, it was just winging it. But with this one, I picked up The Killing Joke. Like, I ordered it last week, and I just got it yesterday and read it last night. And even as I was reading it last night, I felt really grateful to you, Nolan, that you gave me that push to pick it up and read it. Because, you know, there's so many things we intend to do, you never get around to. So I'm so glad I didn't end up missing this because I just kept putting it off. But yeah, I fucking loved reading The Killing Joke. It's fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say about, the meaning you'd read into this story.
Yeah, I think it's a good read. If people want to read it, I'd recommend it. I think it's one of the better stories of Batman and the Joker. It really encapsulates a lot that's going on with their conflict.
And and so for everyone, it's spoilers from this point forward when it comes to The Killing Joke. So don't watch this if you want to read it first. But I just found the story amazingly beautiful, especially for such a short graphic novel. It's only 46 pages. But there was one in particular page where, Ryan, you don't give a shit about spoilers, right?
No, I don't care. But can you guys give everyone a little context as to what the context of us talking about The Killing? Wasn't it, Nolan, didn't you send us an email and say you had some insights into kind of the meaning of the story? Was that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows that's going to be listening to this, we're kind of reading into some of the archetypal meanings of the story. And anyways, Mercury, get back to what you're saying. Sorry for interrupting.
And and so Nolan also, I think you said you'd written an essay specifically on The Killing Joke. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it was on Batman and the Joker in general, but I focused mainly on that story.
And so in this story, it starts with Batman going to visit the Joker in Arkham, and to have a sit down with the Joker because he's realized that eventually they're going to kill each other, that there's just no other end except that one of them kills the other. And Batman says, I just wanted to know that I'd made a genuine attempt to talk things over and avert that outcome just once. So Batman is seeing the inevitable end and still trying to control it. He's still wanting to be that order. But then turns out he's not talking to the Joker. The Joker's already escaped, and he's talking to someone else in makeup. And so the Joker goes and sets up his plan. And we also get shots of one of the, it's like they give the backstory of the Joker, but it's also not certain that that's his backstory because the Joker's insane. This is one of the things he sometimes remembers having had happen. And he sets out to prove a point. And so he kidnaps Commissioner Gordon and shoots Gordon's daughter in the spine, so paralyzing her. And he takes Commissioner Gordon and he's bought an old abandoned carnival and hired some criminal freaks and has created this madhouse to try to warp Commissioner Gordon's mind and drive him insane. And so he's basically torturing Commissioner Gordon. And he's even taken photos of his, like, he stripped his daughter naked and photographed her with, like, the bullet wound and is exposing him to all of those images. And so the one thing the Joker, so when Gordon comes to, and he's got a dog collar around his neck and is naked, and he's suffering like both physical abuse and is just surrounded by horrors. And as he comes to and he remembers that the Joker's the one who kidnapped him and paralyzed his daughter, he says, oh no, I remember. And the Joker says, remember? Ooh, I wouldn't do that. Remembering's dangerous. I find the past such a worrying, anxious place. The past tense, I suppose you'd call it. Ha ha! Memory's so treacherous. One moment, you're lost in a carnival of delights with poignant childhood aromas, the flashing neon of puberty, all that sentimental candy floss. The next, it leads you somewhere you don't want to go, somewhere dark and cold, filled with damp, ambiguous shapes of things you'd hoped were forgotten. Memories can be vile, repulsive, little brutes, like children, I suppose. But can we live without them? Memories are what our reason is based upon. If we can't face them, we deny reason itself. Although, why not? We aren't contractually tied down to reality. There is no sanity clause. So when you find yourself locked onto an unpleasant train of thought, heading for the places in your past where the screaming is unbearable, remember, there's always madness. Madness is an emergency exit. And he goes on with the torturing of the guy, and then finally Batman, oh, I like this one part. So, man's so puny, the universe so big. If you're hurt inside, get certified. And if life should treat you bad, don't get even, get mad. And when Batman finally tracks him down and saves Gordon, spoiler, and finds that Gordon's mind hadn't snapped yet, so Gordon's still together. And Batman and the Joker begin fighting. Batman's chasing the Joker down. He enters the carnival, like sort of madhouse, where all the traps are laid. The Joker says, so I see you received the free ticket I sent you. I'm glad. I did so want you to be here. You see, it doesn't matter if you catch me, send me back to the asylum. Gordon's been driven mad. I've proved my point. I've demonstrated there's no difference between me and everyone else. All it takes is one bad day to reduce the sanest man alive to lunacy. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day. And he's speaking to Batman here. You had a bad day once, am I right? I know I am. I can tell. You had a bad day and everything changed. Why else would you dress up like a flying rat? You had a bad day and it drove you as crazy as everybody else. Only you won't admit it. You have to keep pretending that life makes sense, that there's some point to all this struggling. God, you make me want to puke. I mean, what is it with you? What made you what you are? Girlfriend killed by the mob, maybe? Brother carved up by some mugger? Something like that, I bet. Something like that. Something like that happened to me, you know. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. But my point is, I went crazy. When I saw what a black, awful joke the world was, I went crazy as a coot. I admit it. Why can't you? I mean, you're not unintelligent. You must see the reality of the situation. Do you know how many times we've come close to World War III over a flock of geese on a computer screen? Do you know what triggered the last World War? An argument over how many telegraph poles Germany owed its war debt creditors. Telegraph poles. It's all a joke. Everything anyone ever valued or struggled for. It's all a monstrous, demented gag. So why can't you see the funny side? Why aren't you laughing? Then Batman and the Joker fall into some fun back and forth violence here. And Batman finally has him cornered. Joker pulls out a gun right in Batman's face. But of course, the little thing comes out that says click, click, click. So he's trying to fire a gag gun. And Joker just gives up. He slumps down. God damn it. It's empty. Well, what are you waiting for? I shot a defenseless girl. I terrorized an old man. Why don't you kick the hell out of me and get a standing ovation from the public gallery? And Batman says, because I'm doing this one by the book and because I don't want to. Do you understand? I don't want to hurt you. I don't want either of us to end up killing the other. But we're both running out of alternatives, and we both know it. Maybe it all hinges on tonight. Maybe this is our last chance to sort this bloody mess out. If you don't take it, then we're locked onto a suicide course. Both of us, to the death. It doesn't have to end like that. I don't know what it was that bent your life out of shape, but who knows? Maybe I've been there too. Maybe I can help. We could work together. I could rehabilitate you. You needn't be out there on the edge anymore. You needn't be alone. We don't have to kill each other. What do you say? The Joker turns, and this is the final where it finishes. No, I'm sorry, but no, it's too late for that. Far too late. You know, it's funny. The situation reminds me of a joke. See, there were these two guys in a lunatic asylum. And one night, they decided they don't like living in an asylum anymore. They decide they're going to escape. So, like, they get up onto the roof, and there, just across this narrow gap, they see the rooftops of the town stretching away in the moonlight, stretching away to freedom. Now, the first guy, he jumps right across with no problem. But his friend dare not make the leap. You see, he's afraid of falling. So then the first guy has an idea. He says, hey, I have my flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings. You can walk along the beam of light and join me. But the second guy shakes his head. He says, what do you think I am, crazy? You'd turn it off when I was halfway across. And then the Joker starts laughing. And then Batman starts laughing. And then all you see is Batman grab the Joker. And the police are coming. And you don't know because Gordon has said to Batman already, bring him in by the book. Show him our way works. So Batman's trying not to attack the Joker. He's trying to take him in with no, police abuse. And the Joker is trying to push Batman, not to push Batman insane, to make Batman realize he is. And it finishes with that joke causing Batman to break down in laughter with the Joker and grab the Joker right as the police are coming, but you don't know what happens next.
Yeah. I think that little story that the Joker tells at the end there really gives you an idea of what his philosophy is. The Joker is basically a nihilist a nihilist would be the easiest way to describe it. Who thinks that, let me just think about what I'm going to say here.
Yeah.
So the way I see the kind of story of Batman and the Joker is basically there are two different responses to the tragedy of being kind of similar to Jordan Peterson's interpretation of Cain and Abel. I think they basically start out at the same point, which is some tragic incident which is mentioned in the novel or the graphic novel as a bad day, basically. And the Joker's belief is that a bad day will make anyone become a nihilist, basically. But then Batman isn't like that. The Joker knows he's intelligent and that he's had a tragic event. But he's not the same as the Joker. He hasn't completely lost himself. And so that's why the Joker is so obsessed with Batman. Because he has this philosophy that one bad day will make anyone become like him. But Batman's gone through something tragic himself, but he hasn't been devoured by that same philosophy.
I see that rather than saying that the Joker thinks any one bad day will cause someone to become nihilistic. And again, what I skipped was in the backstory we get, the Joker was a hardworking young man. He had a pregnant wife, was working hard for the future. On a single day, his pregnant wife got killed, in a tragic, laughable accident. And then he was forced to go through with a crime where, of course, Batman causes his disfiguration. So in just one day, he'd lost everything and was horribly mutated and snapped and went insane. But to me, the Joker's message, and it's funny because reading most of the book, I identified with the Joker, not with doing the horrible things or not the nihilism of it, but the insanity of it. And I thought his point was all it takes is one bad day for someone to go insane. And that he and Batman are no different. When Batman's parents were shot, Bruce Wayne's parents were shot, I agree with with Joker. Bruce Wayne went completely insane. However, your point, he didn't become nihilistic. Joker became insane and nihilistic, the polarity of chaos. And Batman went insane the other way of thinking like, oh, well, I'm going to dress up like a bat and create a Batmobile and a Batarang and a bat plane. And I'm going to go out there and enforce order in the world. That Bruce Wayne went insane. It's just as crazy to think, oh, I'm going to run out there and beat reality until it conforms to my idea of order and safety. So, and the way at the end, that flashlight, it's just such a beautiful metaphor that, and at the end, I totally identified with Batman. That was the one part where I did, when he's reaching out to the Joker and saying like, hey, you can come back from this. We don't have to devolve into this chaos. Like, I'm reaching out to you. And so the Joker's on the other side and Batman's got the flashlight on. And the Joker just can't trust him not to turn it off. But at the same time, the whole story, and the story starts with Batman reaching out to the Joker. I want to talk. I want to avoid this. But this is also the Joker reaching out to Batman and saying, you're lost in the insanity of pure order. I'm trying to reach. Joker is also trying to free Batman from his insanity, is the way I thought.
I just want to respond to Nolan's thing too as well. I love how you nailed down the archetypal brotherhood with it, because Thor and Loki is another one. Cain and Abel, obviously, they're all over the place, these archetypal brotherhood stories. And one of the things that I thought of, because Colton, my brother, and I definitely experienced that archetypal brotherhood dichotomy. One of the things we've learned through experience is you can actually want to kill your brother. Literally. Like you can love him to death, but like you could also want to kill him. Like it's a biological thing. Like you could really feel that in any moment. And anybody who's had a brother that's somewhat within your age range can probably relate to this on some level or the other. So I think you're hitting something there. And I did like how you said Batman had a different response to the tragedy of existence than the Joker. I thought that was brilliantly put. And anyways, in Mercury, everything you said I thought was good too, because you're taking it, you're looking at it from this holistic perspective that goes beyond good and evil. It sounds like you're not looking at it as the war between good and evil. You're looking at it as two different polarities, two different extremes of energy. Or
yeah, and both very damaging, because nobody wants to be Batman. I remember at one point there was some meme going around, like a joke where it's in an infinite number of universes, or they say there are an infinite number of universes. If that's true, that means there's a universe where you're Batman. Now, first of all, that premise doesn't hold to me. Infinity does not mean everything happens, but we'll set that aside and accept that premise for the sake of the joke. But the following joke is, so in an infinite number of universes, there's one where you're Batman and one where you're Robin. And then the further joke is someone adds on, also one where you're Alfred the butler. And everyone laughs. And I think people's first reaction is to think like, I don't want to be Alfred. I don't want to be Robin. I want to be Batman. But that's backwards if you really think about it. Nobody wants to be fucking Batman. We think that because, he's the most heroic one. I mean, who you want to be is Alfred. Alfred lives in a mansion, is best friends with Batman, never gets his ass kicked. He's not out in the cold and rain all night. Like, he's got a nice life. To say I want to be Batman is to say, okay, I wish my parents had been killed in front of me when I was a kid, and I was so horrified that I spent years traumatized by it. Then I want to spend my whole life alone, forgiving family life and, the normal joys, to train, spend all night out in the rain alone miserably, getting the shit kicked out of me on a regular basis, and often being the scapegoat for the police. Nobody wants to be Batman. And nobody wants to be the Joker either. We can see how horrible it would be to be the Joker, but we tend to look up to characters like Batman and Wolverine. Whereas the reality is those are the last ones you want to be. You don't want Wolverine's powers. His powers are he can get damaged over and over and over and over again, and he always heals no matter how bloody and brutal and painful it is. His life is agony. But I wasn't taking away from, I just wanted to sort of specify the difference between insanity and nihilism there. So everything you were saying about the Joker's nihilistic response and Batman's response, I was 100% on board with. Nolan, I just wanted to show the extra layer as well. So if we jump back into how when Bruce Wayne went crazy, he went crazy in the direction of order and meaning, like he's fighting for the meaning in life, like Peterson is, and how the Joker embraced nihilism. I'm interested to hear more about the connection between that and Cain and Abel. And if in any way it taught you things about yourself or the people you see in real life.
Yeah, well, I'll just comment on your view of these things. I think you took essentially a higher view of things than what I took, but I think both layers stack on top of each other. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, I think everything we're saying works together. We're not, it's different layers, different perspectives to look at it from.
And if you could repeat that question, I kind of forgot what you asked me.
So what I was sort of saying was to step back down from the layer I went to and to look at Batman's reaction, which Joker is calling insane, his insanity of latching on to order and meaning, and then the Joker's reaction of to latch on to the nihilism, and how you connected that with Cain and Abel. I'd like to hear a bit more about that, and in particular, if your contemplations on that showed you anything about yourself or some of the people in your life.
I think essentially it comes down to Batman on some level accepts his suffering, and tries to improve the world so that someone else doesn't have to go through a similar thing that he did. But I do agree that he doesn't necessarily take the best approach to that. He kind of latches onto this like tyrannical kind of order. And then it's interesting to think about some of the other characters in that story, particularly James Gordon. Is kind of the center of this, because Batman's basically an extremely flawed person, but Gordon is actually the one who goes through all this torturing and suffering, and then at the end he still says, I want the Joker brought in by the book. So it doesn't fall into that kind of order that Batman does, where he goes out and tries to beat down all the criminals on his own kind of power. So I think Gordon is kind of the ideal in the story, and the other two are kind of these extremes that aren't the best response.
Yeah, absolutely. And because with Gordon, it's Commissioner Gordon accepts that he can't control the world. He accepts that he can't take down every supervillain. He's going to do what's right, and he's going to trust in the book. He's going to trust in doing it by the book, and he's going to do his part, but he's accepted that he can't control the world, that it's just to do his own part. Whereas both Batman and the Joker are trying to alter the whole world to their vision of what it should be. Whereas Batman feels it should be ordered and fair, so he's going to spend every fucking drop, like bit of strength, and he'll shed every drop of blood to beat the world into order. And the Joker instead is convinced it's senseless pain, and he's trying to make sure that that's clear to everyone. Even in the way in many stories, and in this one, he's got his poisons that kill you by also turning you into him, that it causes the smile. And yeah, he's going around killing people, turning them into reflections of himself. But you're absolutely right. Gordon is walking the middle path and choosing meaning in a realistic way without getting lost in those fantasies of self-aggrandizement.
Yeah, I think your point about the Joker toxins and poisons, that was interesting, and that was something that I came to the same conclusion, that it's another way of representing him bringing people over to his kind of nihilistic, chaotic viewpoint of the world. And that's a representation of making other people like him.
And I think that's what we're all doing in this modern age, when, like, a change that I hope I'm seeing is, it used to be like the debate format is to go in and to say, here's what I believe. Now I'm going to try to make you believe the same thing. So essentially any debate you enter where one person is trying to convince the other person about all of their points, they're basically doing what the Joker's doing, of going in and saying, like, the thoughts, this is the way I think of the world, I need you to have that. Or with the Joker, it's the image, this is my face, I'm going to force you to have the same face. And I think we're all doing this when we're saying at each other, no, that's not the way things are. I want everyone to understand the way I see things is like, okay, when I was a child and people told me things, I believed they were telling me about reality because at first they were. This is blue, this is orange, this is red, this is green. They're right. Although, actually, in a way, they're not teaching me about the colors. They're just teaching me the game we play. This is the sound for red. Like, red is this color, red is. And then you get a bit older and your teachers are teaching you about the world. I thought they were teaching me about the way the world is. And then as I got older, and I think teenagers go through this, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, you're not telling me the way the world is. You're telling me the way you think the world is. And the reality's different. And as a teenager, I was very into arguing with people. And when I thought I was right about something, I thought that meant that was the way the world is. Whereas I've gotten to the point where when I listen to people now, I don't expect you, Nolan, or you, Ryan, to tell me the way the world is. I expect you to tell me the way you experience the world and your understanding of it. And when I had a problem with other people feeling differently, it was because I thought I was living in the real world. So of course it's upsetting that other people are wrong. But now I realize I'm not in the real world. You're not in the real world. You're not in the real world. We're all living in our own delusions that we generate from some sort of reality that none of us understand. And we can stop going into conversations like the Joker, where this is my face, I'm going to make you have my face. And it can be, this is my face, show me your face. And we can allow each other to be what we are and share our realities rather as trying to beat our realities into other people's heads.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary of what's going on in that story.
It's like the Mercury, what you're talking about is a way of attempting to transcend tribalism. But it's more than an attempt because it's almost being stated as a reality that transcends and includes tribalism, to put it in the Wilberian language.
But not just tribalism. Yes, that will, like operating that way, will allow tribes to live in peace. But it's not just that. It will also change the dynamic of a tribe.
Within the tribe, yeah.
Right now, within each tribe, each member is like, no, this is not what our tribe does. This is not what our tribe is. This is not within it. Everybody's trying to mash each other into the exact same definition of what our tribe is. And it affects the individual as well. So it affects the tribes interacting. It affects the individuals within the tribe. But then it will also affect you as an individual once you can accept that. Because the part of me that is like that identified with the Joker, and for so much of that, not the pain involved, not the evil side of him, but I was just like, yes, he's right about all of that. I identified strongly with the Joker for the majority of the story, and at the beginning and end identified strongly with Batman. And I don't try to beat those two to match each other. I don't try to decide, am I the Joker inside or am I Batman inside? No, I'm both. And you can stop beating this, so the same thing that within the tribe, we can stop as individuals butting heads. Within the self, we can stop having our sub-personalities butt heads and interact more peacefully as well.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Although I do think we map onto the characters differently as individuals. I don't think that everybody has the same characteristic affiliation with every story arc. Like, I think that some people have more Batman in them than Joker, and some people have more whatever the police officer guy's name is in them. Like, everybody is unique, you know?
Yes. But all those people who think they don't have any of the Joker in them, but you're only one bad day away from it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And in fact, here's one thing that's weird. I think for a lot of people, because like this graphic novel's not approved by the Comic Code Authority. Like it's one of those mature readers only. So the comic's actually quite disturbing. And compared to normally what a comic book will have in it, it's quite disturbing. But as I was reading it, I was thinking, because I think the Joker's absolutely right, although I would probably need more than a day. That's speaking more mythically, like metaphorically, to say you're one bad day away. Although maybe, but give me 2 weeks. And I mean a version of me with no morals. Like, if I accepted the Joker's outlook and I wanted to break you into total nihilistic insanity, give me 2 weeks with the Joker's resources, and I'll come up with something much worse than what he did. We're all breakable. And I've had a series of thoughts, because in fact, in the past, I've thought this through. What would it take to break the most stable person? And I won't explain the details of some of the things I thought, because I don't think that's a good idea to say them out loud. But no, you can break anyone. And what the Joker's doing in there, it's the absolute perfect scenery, but he only had the dial turned up to 1. You could take that dial right up to 10, and all of us, it's our life experiences. Those of us, and so to become more like Sam Harris for a minute, when we're all judging each other, realize that Gordon is that way because Gordon lived his life. Batman is that way, or Bruce Wayne is that way because his parents were shot in front of him. And he didn't choose that, and he couldn't help but have the reaction. Same thing with the Joker. Any of us who haven't gone through what the Joker went through don't realize we have the Joker within us. Yeah. It's not that we don't have it. We don't know it's there. It's there.
The only caveat that I would add for me, just from my perspective, is that it's not the same Joker. Like I agree that everybody has the capacity to go into different sub-personalities. That's a given to me. But I don't think that everybody handles life situations the same. And I think that is because we are fundamentally, we have a different, if you think of it like the seed of a tree, okay? Every tree that grows comes from a seed, but every seed has a different signature of energy. So you can apply the same environment to 2 different seeds, but those seeds are still different seeds. They're going to be different. They're going to react to the same environment differently. That I think transfers to humans. But I don't disagree that everybody has. So if we think about the Joker as a meta proclivity for chaos, fine, yeah. I'm on board. But when we start getting too specific with universals, that's where I start to step away a little bit, because I just don't think that we're the product of only life experience. I think there is something essential about each individual that is, whether you call it God's gift or genetics or however you want to phrase it. I think that we have to make space for that as well. That's just my little caveat. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I know for me personally, sometimes I can feel this tension kind of arise when something happens in my life, where maybe it's something went wrong and I'm not happy with how it turned out. I know that I can sometimes fall into this kind of nihilistic way of thinking sometimes, where it's like, why am I doing this? What's the point?
Yeah.
Dude, the world is this chaotic force, and how can I possibly exert any amount of control over it? And then sometimes you fall into being, miserable towards other people, and then it just doesn't work out very well. But you can also kind of feel that other voice kind of saying, like, look, this bad thing that you didn't want to happen happened, but falling into this nihilistic pit isn't going to make it any better.
Yeah.
And you do have some degree of control over how to react to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are kind of, that's the Cain and Abel within everyone, is that's kind of what you're saying. And I agree with that. We all have a choice to make. I think that's brilliantly put. And I think that that's probably why this story resonates with you so much, Nolan, because you are one of those people who's had to make that choice on a major level. You have every reason to be resentful and bitter against life, and you've suffered. I'm assuming I don't know who you are. I don't know what it's like to be you. I know who you are, but I don't know what it's like to be you. I'm assuming that you've experienced more suffering than the average individual, and so you have that story cranked up inside of you. I think more, same with you, Mercury, probably more than most individuals, because suffering is a real and in your face. A lot of people don't make their intense encounters with suffering until later on, or they get intimations of it, but they don't get like the full like wake up call. And does that make sense what I'm saying, or do I just sound like totally nuts right now?
So I think that's right. It's with my condition, it's you can't ignore when you have a severe condition. You can't ignore that there is this kind of unfair element to life. Like there's no escaping from it when it's right in front of you. But you can react to it in a different way.
Yes, and that is kind of what I'm saying is you've been doing that. You've taken the Cain and Abel journey within yourself, and you've come out on the side of really letting go of resentment and embracing your suffering and bearing it nobly and choosing to try to make a positive difference and follow your sense of meaning in life. And things are getting better for you, right?
Yeah, things are getting better.
And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and everything you just said was right in our first conversation, where I saw the same light in you that I have within me. It's like I saw a real kinship between you and I, in that there's both something we have in our life that if you want to be materialist about it and not think about higher purposes or whatnot, where we both encountered things that most people don't encounter, very difficult, and it wasn't our fucking fault. Like, it's just, it happened to us. Very easy to blame God, very easy to be resentful. And that struggle you have within you between Batman and the Joker, and the way you're facing it is just where I really see myself in you and feel a strong sense of connection in you that just, yes, despite all the other differences, you and I are so similar in that manner. And one thing before we get too far, everything I'd said to you, Ryan, about that one bad day away, and I could torture anyone into going insane. Right. I was oversimplifying there, and also I was talking about the average man there. So I'm not like, yes, an enlightened being or the person with the right metaphysical aspects, the right spiritual guides or purpose can encounter the Joker's torture or could encounter mine and could be just like Christ all the way through.
Right.
Like, yeah, you can face that and survive, but only if you're a balanced person, not the average person.
Yeah, I understand.
If you're fully integrated, or for me, I might be able to survive the Joker's ride, not the way Gordon did, where he came out saying by the book, but I'm integrated to the point where my insanity is of high morality. And I could get to screaming and laughing and drooling with him, but just the while he's going, haha, it's all meaningless, I'm going like, haha, just the exact. I could happily have him torture me to death if I go into the right psychosis. Where, haha, you're proving my point, I'm the martyr.
Just picturing that, you and the
yeah. So there are the exceptional individuals that know that won't warp them, but I was talking about the average person, and absolutely what Nolan said, that all of us inside of us have both of those.
Yes, and my point was just that both of those polarities, while we can say that they're meta polarities, there are nuances that are very individualized.
Yeah.
My Cain is different than your Cain, and my Abel is different than your Abel, and my, Gordon's different than your Gordon. So that's the Strachan part of me, the Dr. Strachan part of me, that I need to say, because he's just driven it home so hard that we cannot over universalize. That's dangerous, but I do think it's also important to see what are the universals that we know that are true, that exist in the landscape of human experience. And it's a fine line between collective mutual bonding over archetypal truths and then assuming that we can apply the same framework infinitely to every individual, right down to the specifics. That's where and that's more of the psychologist in me speaking, that's not the seeker in me. That's not the soul. That's the scientific philosopher, psychologist part of me.
So I think before anyone listens to any of our conversations, really, they should have in mind what Alan Watts pointed out about his own teaching, that to give any teaching, you have to step into it and speak about it as if it's absolute. But every great teacher and every great guru understands all those nuances and understands that this is true and this is true from this perspective and this is true. But to teach a single point, you have to temporarily step into it and almost talk about it as if it's absolute.
Yeah, I understand that.
Dive into that idea. But you're right. As soon as you step out of it, you've got to put that in place with all the other truths and everything else. So to keep in mind that in any one moment, when I'm expressing an idea, I'm trying to express that idea, and it comes across, you almost have to speak about it like a totality to express it. But then
I understand.
Put it in perspective with everything else we know.
Yeah, no, and I think everything you said, and as well as Nolan, has been brilliant and well worth the time to listen to. Yeah, again, that's just my little philosopher scientist kind of need that I have to balance these things back a little bit, to roll back the tape and to just say, hey, there's a hole here. We should be careful. But nothing, I don't have any disagreement with what you said. It's more just a caveat. But let's move on, because that's a whole diversion from the importance of this conversation.
I'm going to share one image with Nolan. You said you may also be interested in talking about X-Men, and I don't know if we'll actually get into that or not. Maybe we can do that another day. But I don't know. This was one of my favorite comics since I was a kid. It's so worn out. But I had this out. Have you ever seen this issue, Nolan?
Ha! This is awesome.
Issue 251 of Uncanny X-Men.
No, I haven't seen it before.
So this is a fantastic issue. You should grab this. You don't even need to know the story before and after to understand this one. What it is the Reavers have captured Wolverine, and they've got him in the Australian outback, and they've got him tied to a cross. Of course, his cross is like an X. And they're just slowly torturing him. And again, here it shows how much you wouldn't want Wolverine's healing powers, because they can just torture him day and night, and he heals from everything. It's called Fever Dream. But as a kid, I was obsessed with this cover. of Wolverine crucified on an X. So yeah, it's issue 251 of Uncanny X-Men. I think you'd really enjoy this story, Nolan.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.